In 1902, a 23-year-old man sat in a small office in Bern, Switzerland, stamping patent applications for 8 hours a day. He had no university job, no research position, no recognition. His own father died believing his son was a failure. That man's name was Albert Einstein, and within 3 years, he would change the way humanity understands time, space, and the universe itself. This is not the story of a genius who was always destined for greatness. This is the story of a man who was rejected again and again and refused to stop. Here's something most people get wrong about Einstein. He was not a bad student. He was actually brilliant at mathematics and physics from a young age. What he hated was the rigid, rote learning style of German schools in the 1880s. Teachers who demanded obedience, not curiosity. One of his teachers reportedly told him he would never amount to anything, simply because Einstein refused to learn by memorization alone. He preferred to ask, why instead of just memorizing what? That single trait, relentless curiosity over blind obedience, would later become the foundation of his greatest discoveries. But in his youth, it only made him look like trouble. He was seen as distracted, difficult, unremarkable. Nobody in that classroom could have guessed they were looking at the man who would one day rewrite the laws of physics. In 1900, Einstein graduated from the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. He expected to walk into an academic research position like his classmates. Instead, he hit a wall. He wrote letters to professors across Europe, begging for any kind of academic post. Most never even bothered to reply. He once said he had practically given up hope of finding a position at all. For nearly 2 years, he drifted. He took odd jobs. He briefly tutored students. He applied and was rejected, applied and was rejected over and over. And then came the hardest blow. His father, Hermann, fell ill and passed away, still believing his son was going nowhere in life. Einstein carried that grief for years. To make things worse, the doctoral thesis he had poured himself into was rejected by the University of Zurich. Imagine that moment. No job, no degree, a grieving family, and the one piece of work he was proud of, turned down. By every visible measure, Albert Einstein was failing. In 1902, a friend finally helped him secure a modest position, technical examiner at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. It wasn't the prestigious research career he had dreamed of. It was a desk job, reviewing other people's inventions, 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. But here is the twist that changed history. The job required him to evaluate the technical and mathematical soundness of patent applications. Without realizing it, Einstein was training his mind daily, testing logic, spotting flaws, thinking in clean, precise structures. And every evening, after his shift ended, he went home and kept working, not on patents, but on his own ideas about light, time, and motion. While the world saw a clerk stamping paperwork, Einstein was quietly building the foundation of a scientific revolution. He had no laboratory, no prestigious university backing him, just a desk, a notebook, and a refusal to let go of the questions everyone else had stopped asking. 1905. In a single year, while still working full-time at that same patent office, Einstein published 4 papers that would transform physics forever. One of them introduced an idea so radical that even the most senior physicists in Europe needed years to fully accept it, that energy and mass were 2 forms of the same thing. That equation, E equals mc squared, would eventually reshape humanity's understanding of energy itself. Historians would later call 1905 his miracle year. The same man whose father died believing he was a failure had just rewritten the rules of the universe, from a desk no one had taken seriously. Recognition didn't come overnight. It took years for the scientific world to catch up to what he had already proven. But slowly, letters started arriving. Physicists from across Europe began writing to him, asking questions, requesting his papers. The clerk had become the teacher. Einstein's story isn't really about genius. It's about what happens in the years before anyone recognizes that genius. It's about staying curious when the world calls you difficult, //. It's about continuing to think when no one is paying you to think, //. It's about working a job that has nothing to do with your dream, while never letting go of the dream itself. Albert Einstein didn't become great the moment the world noticed him. He became great in the silence before that, in the rejected job applications, in the failed thesis, in the 8-hour shifts at a desk that had nothing to do with physics. The world only saw the genius after 1905, but the man who built that genius had already been working, quietly, patiently, relentlessly, For years,